Thank you so much today for coming, for investing time in yourselves to more empower yourselves. That's really what today is about, empowering yourselves to be better people and to move beyond any circumstance that you may find yourself in. Whether you have epilepsy or not, you should be living your life to be the best version of yourself. So today I'm going to share with you my story and then importantly give you tips that I found really, really useful to get to where I am today. That's okay? So here are some of the people that I work with. You see there's a few, Paki Bonner, Christina Noble, you can see Axel Foley there, unfortunately passed away. The reason I'm showing you this is just to show you that these guys are leading in their industry and I now share the stage with these kind of people. And there is a point to showing you that. This is the kind of life that I have now. So as you can see, I have a little baby up there. He turned 6 yesterday. To go from 5 3/4 to 6 is a big deal, momentous occasion. I do a lot of media stuff. I don't let things stop me. If you look here, I like to do anything that makes me feel alive. So it could be anything from jumping out of a plane to literally you name it, anything that makes me feel alive. And as you can see here as well, I like to draw. So I do things, I don't let things stop me. But I'm going to share with you my story, and it's important that I take you back to the very beginning to put it into context how important epilepsy awareness is, because I was actually misdiagnosed before I got the diagnosis of epilepsy. And this may have happened to some of you in the audience, I don't know, but I'm just going to share my story. So basically, I was born in Mayo, best county in Ireland. And when I was 7, I was born into actually a fantastic family, just to clarify that. And when I was 7, I was raped. And obviously it's a big thing for a 7-year-old to deal with, so I didn't deal with it. And this basically is how I turned out. I was given a week to live. I went down to 5 stone, so half me now, which I know that's very hard to believe. So I'm just going to take off, because I do know it's graphic. But that was basically because of being unable to cope with what happened to me. Thankfully, and I only have 20 minutes, so I'm going to surmise this very, very quickly. I did get better from that, and I was doing really well. I got back into, I was doing my leaving cert, I had a boyfriend, I was doing all the things that kind of teenagers do, and I was very confident. And then in 1998, I was in a car accident, and I basically hit my head. Over the next couple of weeks, I started to feel funny. I didn't know anyone with epilepsy, so I didn't recognize it as epilepsy, but I started to feel funny. I started what I now know as like auras, but the way I described it was dreamy, because I didn't have the correct terminology. So I basically was asked to go to the doctor. I knew there was something wrong. I was studying psychology, so I knew it wasn't emotional, but I was having symptoms. So I went to the doctor, and the doctor said to me, take antidepressants. And I said, but I'm not depressed. And I genuinely wasn't depressed at that point. And they said, well, take them anyway, they'll make you feel better. So you do what doctor says. So I took them, and I then was referred to a psychiatrist. 15 minutes with me and 10 minutes with my parents of an interview, if you like. My mother came out of her office crying, and I thought, oh my God, do I have cancer? Do you know, that was my kind of thinking. So they came over to me and they said, Donna, you have schizophrenia, you have to stay here, you're going to be put on 24-hour supervision, and we're going to increase your medication as quickly as we can. So I stayed there for 3 months because my parents didn't have the right insurance in place, and I was put on 14 different medications in those 3 months. So those people that you see walking down Grafton Street or on Henry Street, and they got like fish eyes and they're, you know, dribbling and puffy and all that kind of stuff, I was that person. I know it's hard to believe now, but I was. Thankfully, my parents got a second opinion and they brought me to Dublin. And my dad was very frustrated at this stage because we all knew I didn't have schizophrenia. We all knew I wasn't depressed. And my dad was having a consultation with the new psychiatrist, and he got angry and he said, look, can you tell me why that Donna was perfectly normal, outgoing, doing everything top of her class in college before the accident, and now she's like this? And the doctor looked horrified and he basically said, what accident? So seizures were not recorded that I'd had. They weren't recorded in my file for the first hospital. They were put down to side effects of medication. That medication has now been taken off the market. Also, a brain scan that was done and showed a hematoma in my left temporal lobe, and that was also not in my file. So the doctor was horrified. He basically requested all information. They did the standard tests, and he said, look, I'm 99.9% positive that your daughter has epilepsy. Now, I didn't know what epilepsy was. I knew one person with epilepsy, and basically it was convulsive fits. So I suppose I'm stubborn, I'm from Mayo, and I said, I don't have epilepsy. And I requested that they bring me up, because I was still in the psychiatric unit now, remember, so I asked them to bring me up documentation and proof that I had epilepsy. And it was literally, I sat in the bed and it was tick, 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 tick. And I was like, oh my God, I have epilepsy. So I have complex partial epilepsy. So at that point, I remember sitting on the bed and thinking, right, how am I going to get better? How am I going to overcome this? I'd lost my place in college. I had no job. I was feeling very low, and I said, okay, I have to do something about it. So this is what I had to ask myself. Am I going to be a victim or a victor? And I had to go back to what my mother told me when I was getting better from anorexia. And that was, look for things that you have, not what you don't have. So I had to lay a solid foundation of gratitude. And I basically felt very bitter at the time. But I started looking around and I thought, I wonder, will it kind of help me to get at some level that I can then build on? So I looked around the room first of all, and I was like, well, I'm not very grateful for being here. And don't ask me what I was doing with the lipstick in a psychiatric unit, but I had one. And I was grateful for my lipstick. And then I went on and I started to do one thing at a time, and the next time, and the next thing, until I had about 39 things, I think it was. And I said, actually, now I have a foundation, now I have something that I feel like I have stuff in my life, not that it was taken away from me. So I started on a journey of getting myself better, but more importantly, empowering myself to be who I wanted to be, not to fall victim to a condition, not to fall victim to a label, and not to fall victim to stigma. I didn't want that, so I had to kind of get my life back on track. So these are some of the things that I had to do, and I know it's only 20 minutes, so it's kind of rushing through, but I had to choose a productive focus. Before that, I was focused on everything that had been done to me. You know, it was a comedy week in heaven and I was the star of the show. You know, was it all kind of, I just felt very angry, but I had to choose a new focus if I was to get better. So you're not your epilepsy, and if you know someone with epilepsy, they're not their epilepsy either. It's a condition. You're not your job, you're not your title, you're you. And whether you have epilepsy or not, that's the way, in my opinion, is the most empowering way that you can live your life, is to be you and the best version of yourself. So I had to decide what I wanted, and I had to see it not as a problem, I had to see it as a challenge if I was to overcome it. And I thought, if I could find people who had what I wanted, and not necessarily people with epilepsy, just people in general who were achieving things beyond average, who were achieving things at an exceptional level, and I was to find them and meet them and learn from them, I wonder, could I come up with similar strategies if the people had been through disaster first? So I started seeking out these people, business people, Olympians, nutritionists, anyone you could think of that was playing at a higher level than me. I started to seek them out. And all I wanted to do was to learn, and I had no agenda. So I just wanted to learn from them. And I figured if I wanted to be a baker, it makes sense to me to find a really good baker, not my mother. She cremates stuff, or she did. I needed to find people who are really doing it. I didn't care what qualifications they have. Oftentimes qualifications can be the result of a good memory. I just wanted to know them as people. And they met up with me. And that's why I know a lot of the people that I know, and I've befriended them because they literally met up with me and showed me how they did what they did. And it became empowering for me. These are 3 things, so remember the 3 Ps. Plan, prepare, and proceed. A little bit like, you know, when you're going on a journey in the car and you have like your GPS or your sat-nav or whatever, Google Maps, my savior. So learn from an expert. How many people here, when they learned to drive, learned from somebody, a family member? Okay, well, I did. My first lesson was from my sister, and she'd kill me if I said this, and now it's on camera, but she actually gave me my first lesson. I was in a Mini, I overtook a tractor in first gear on a road that I could not actually see around. So she wasn't a great person to learn from. And a lot of people learn things in life from people who actually aren't doing it. They're just saying they can do it. So I wanted to find people who are actually living what it is that they were saying. And that's what, if you want to do something, you find those people. Have the tools, the skills, and the support. What is it that you need? What is it that, for your personal circumstance, what is it that you need? What tools do you need? What supports do you need? And never be afraid to ask for help. Everybody in this room doesn't know everything. I don't know everything. There's not one doctor in here that knows everything. So we're always learning. And when you take like the I know everything out of the situation, it makes it a lot easier and it becomes a lot more empowering. And focus forward. You know, if you were driving and you were to look in your rearview mirror all the time, how would that get you anywhere? Nowhere. So if you want something in your life, you have to focus on what you do want, not on what you don't want. So if you have epilepsy, you have to focus beyond it, not just that I'm in it, or I have this, or I hate this, or, you know, if people see me fall on the ground, or they see me look like I'm off my head, or whatever. If you stay in that kind of limited mentality, you get nowhere, and it's a very limiting life. Whereas if you move beyond that, think, well, actually, what if I could live an amazing life, even if I have epilepsy? What if I could do and give myself the chance, even if I do all those things that embarrass me? You know, what if? And that's the kind of mentality I started to explore. If you do anything, you practice it, you practice it, you practice it. You only speak English if you speak English, if it's your first language. If not, whatever your first language is, you speak that because you grew up in an environment that spoke that and you practiced it. And for the most part, what I found personally is that we're actually conditioned by our environment. The things are around us. Every single second, information is coming into our senses. All of the time, every millisecond. And our brain and our bodies are responding to it, for the majority, the most part, automatically, without us actually having to think about it. You see a lot of this actually in Ireland. You have one person digging a hole, and why you need 4 others to look into it, I have no idea, but we tend to do that. And then we dig it up and clear it, and we dig it up again, and we do all that kind of stuff. It's the same really as when you're given a diagnosis, and I get this. Sometimes you can kind of look too much into it. Awareness is fantastic, and that's why Epilepsy Ireland is such a valuable resource. But don't inundate yourself with the problem, because if you do, you get nowhere. It's just like looking into a hole, and if you look into a hole, you're missing everything around you. Does that make sense? Your brain is your most valuable asset. And even if our brains don't work in a similar way to a lot of people, we still have brains, and we have exceptional brains. Did you know the majority of people who have achieved great things in this world could have been considered crazy? That is the fact. If they're rich, they're eccentric. If they're poor, they're crazy. But the fact is, our brains are brains. We're people. We're not labels. So I'm just going to show you, this is probably one of the most impactful, powerful things that I've ever learned. And I've put it into a context of being simple so that everyone can understand it. Now, I've studied the biology of the brain for the reason that it's quite a few people that I met up with. It's one of the things, for whatever reason, everyone seems to be interested in the brain. Why do 2 people, for example, have the same business, exact same industry? One person takes it like to €1 billion and the next person takes it to 30 grand a year. If it's the same business, same tools, everything. And they will tell you it's mindset, how you think. So how you think is going to predict the results that you get in your life, good or bad. So I want you to imagine, let's say we're going to buy a computer, and many of you will recognize this, even if it's a phone. And you go in and think back to the first time you got your phone or your tablet or whatever. You go into the shop and you look around and you see all these things around you. And you say to people, okay, I got it. And you look around at all these things and you say, well, I don't know which one to choose. So they say, no problem. So you ask the expert in the room, so no problem. So they pick you out one, and you say, okay, well, a lot of my friends, they've got like Facebook and they've got Twitter or whatever. I don't know how to use it. No problem, I'll put that on your phone for you. So if you imagine all those like apps on your phone or your tablet, and you say, well, I don't know how to use emails either. So they say, no problem, I'll do that for you too. So they put all the emails, you've got loads of stuff on your tablet. Then you get home, and this happens. It's, oh my God, things start to crash, you don't know what you're doing, the computer nearly feels like it's going to blow up, all those kind of things, you get frustrated unless you keep practicing it. My aunt is about 67 or 68. She literally opens every email. She's won the lottery in Nigeria. She has, she has best friends that she never knew that have an inheritance for her, and she opens them all. Why? Not because she's stupid, because she's naive to the fact that programs just always come in. They're not necessarily good ones. So I want you to imagine when we're born, We have basic stuff, like basic apps, ability to learn a language, ability to move, ability to feed. Over time, we start to download other apps. So for example, maybe your accent, English, whatever it is that the kind of person that you are, we all download it. Some of those are emotionally sensitive. They're obviously all our senses. I'm going to have to fly through this now. There's a part of our brain called the limbic system. We all have this. It's really basic. And there's certain things about the limbic system, and I'm not going to go into the biology of it because there's other experts that can do that. But these are basic things that are very important. It doesn't filter information. It doesn't tell the difference between negative or positive. Do not think of a pink elephant. Do not think of a green ball. Okay. You know that when you get a fright, you don't go, well, I wonder, will I jump or not? You just do. And then you think about it, is it dangerous afterwards? Okay, so that limbic system is like, it's a collection of structures that are basically really primitive, almost like the inside of a computer, the inside of a phone. And that's the part of us that is essential to understand. You change perspective. You know when you go on holidays and you put on glasses and maybe they're yellow tint, all of a sudden everything looks yellow. Or blue, the sky is wonderful. And that's just because of our filter, not because of the reality. And we can go through life with a filter. One of those filters can be, I have epilepsy. So every time we see a situation, you go, I would love to do that, but I have epilepsy, I can't do that. Or I'd love to do that, but I can't do that. And these are all filters that we're working with because we've downloaded apps, whether that be stigma, whether it be people you've seen who have epilepsy, that aren't, you know, they're not functioning as well as maybe they can function, but they don't let themselves. And we live our lives through that filter. I have a daughter with epilepsy, so it means that she may never become X, Y, or Z, which is very unfortunate because when you take off those glasses, you take off the filter, the amount of stuff that you can achieve, even if you have epilepsy, is incredible. But you have to take off the filter. So this is the last little thing I want you to actually imagine in your head. The next time you think that limited thought, whether it be I have epilepsy and I don't know what to do, or have epilepsy so I can't do that, or I'm embarrassed, or whatever negative thing that you say, I want you to imagine a delete button. And this is a very, very simple thing, and I don't know why, but it works. So any negative thought that you have, I want you to imagine it, have a visual of that, and delete it. It's not disowning your reality, it's not disowning your past, it's taking control of the present and going forward to the future. And then what I want you to do is replace it with one of these. So if you think negative, say to yourself, you know, I have epilepsy, but I can't do that. Imagine the delete button and then replace it. I have epilepsy, but I'm more than epilepsy. I can live beyond epilepsy, and I just need to learn how to live with epilepsy and then achieve everything that I want to achieve. And importantly, this. Create positive programs to ensure your success. And you have to be the best you and take action. It doesn't happen by feeling sorry for yourself. And I can say that because I did. The doctor couldn't say that, but I can. It doesn't happen by feeling sorry for yourself or limiting yourself. The only way that you can actually achieve the life that you want and that you can move beyond epilepsy is if you decide to, you commit to it, and you actually take action, small steps even, to get there. And I'm going to leave you on one final thing. Just picture right now what the best version of you would look like and move towards that. And thank you for your time.